I just love the competition of playing football. The individual mental battle of coming up against my right-sided player. I always looked at it like he was trying to cut short my career at Arsenal, so I had to make sure that he didn't. Well, I mean, I played football from a really early age. My dad was a very good footballer. My mum was as well. Was really big on football. So, I can remember playing when I was like 5, 6 years of age, playing for even like the under-12 teams that were just at my local village team, which can't actually happen now because of the age difference. But then it was just, you know, you had the freedom to play. I don't think you ever look at it when you're young as, are you one of the best players? I think I just wanted to go out and play football. I mean, it wasn't really a high level for me, you know. I just enjoyed playing, and you know, I'd play really wherever I could get a game. 3 months before I was due to leave school, and I'd actually been offered a job at Jaguar Cars. I was playing in a game, and after the game, Don Dorman, who was the chief scout from Birmingham City, came up to me and said, you know, he'd watched me play and would I go for some trials at Birmingham. And at that stage, I was playing in midfield. The people in charge at Birmingham were saying, oh, we need someone to play left back, and I just said, well, I'll play there, I'm left-footed. And I played in the first trial game at left back, and then got invited back a few weeks later, and they just said to me, we want you to play at left back again. So really that's how it sort of first evolved, that I started to play in that position on a regular basis. Being a professional footballer, or having the chance, never really, you know, that's what I always wanted to do, but to believe you can actually do that. Obviously then when the chance came along to sign for Birmingham, I just jumped at it. To go out and do something that you've always dreamt about doing was just like a dream for me, really. So obviously that was the first steps for me to try and become a professional footballer. Well, I think initially at Birmingham, I mean, everything was like it was a whirlwind. At the end of the first season, I signed first professional forms from those apprentice forms, which was really unheard of at the time. Jim Smith was the manager at Birmingham. I was getting good reviews, but things were going really well for me. But all of a sudden, Jim Smith lost his job, got the sack. Ron Saunders came in, and within the end of that second season, I'd been told, actually, you're not good enough, so we're going to release you at the end of that second year. So that was a shock. And then all of a sudden you start to think, oh, you know, your dream's going to be over. I sort of thought, well, I've got to get off my backside and try and do something. So I called Jim Smith at Oxford and asked if I could just go down and train sort of for the following pre-season, and he just said, yeah, just come along, it's not a problem. Once we're back up and running for pre-season, come down. That's exactly what I did. But I'd only been at sort of Oxford about 3 weeks, and Jim called me in and said, you know, Dave Bassett at Winterburn needed a left back for pre-season. Was I interested? Well, it doesn't take a genius to work out 2 clubs interested rather than 1. And I went to Wimbledon and spent 4 weeks there and signed on the dotted line straight away because they offered me a contract. So, I mean, things changed pretty quickly. Well, I look back and think, you know, if I hadn't made that phone call, and then, you know, what would have happened? Because, you know, I know clubs circulate players' names, but you can sit there waiting forever, and for me it was like, well, I need to try and make something happen, and, you know, to get that opportunity to try and, you know, break back into professional football really was, I suppose it was a lucky break for me. It was a bit like being a pub team really, because Wimbledon just got promoted from the 4th into the 3rd division when I joined them, but I mean, you know, we trained at Roehampton, which was Parks pitches. You know, the place that we got changed to train in was part of a CAF, you know, and people were coming in from outside, so there was no sort of security or anything like that. You were given training kit at the start of the season. You had to buy your own boots, you had to take your training kit home to wash. So it was a completely different world to what a lot of people perceive it to be. I mean, lots of stuff went on. I mean, clothes went missing. They were, you know, you'd go back into the dressing room, they were on fire. You know, shoes were nailed to the floor. You know, people were tied up around trees. It was a pretty crazy thing to do, but for Wimbledon, it just seemed normal. And they had a lot of big characters at the football club as well. You know, they had Vinnie Jones, Kane, John Fashion, Dennis Wise was there. You know, they had a lot of big characters. Well, I got a call from Sam Haman, who was the owner of Wimbledon, and I suppose not many people know that a few days before that I'd been to Chelsea for talks. They came in for me, and I went down to see them, and things didn't work out. And then a few days after that, I got a call from Sam again saying, you know, Arsenal want to talk to you, and George Graham's, you know, waiting for you. He's going to call you. You just got to make your way over and give them permission to speak to you. Go over and see them and see what happens, really. So that was really the first signs that I really knew that you know, Arsenal were interested. When you walk into those Highbury halls with all its marble, completely different to Wimbledon, I think really I was quite stunned by the stature and the difference in the football club. Obviously the meeting of George Graham in his office, you know, the big desk. It's quite intimidating, really, but you know, it was something that I knew was going to happen anyway. There would no way would it break down through contract talks.
Look back and see the past managers, the great managers. Chapman, who was the manager of the first Arsenal team to win a major trophy. And my dream and my ambition would to be actually to bring those times back here as a manager. And if I could emulate what they did in the 30s, I'd be a very, very happy person.
George is the manager, you're the players, I'm in charge. I'll keep myself a little bit away from the players. And you know, and I'm the one that makes the decisions, and so I think that's why, you know, people looked at George in that way. And I think, you know, George had good control, you know, over the team, because if you kicked up a stink, then he could put you in the reserves, which would make you suffer, and you couldn't really afford to, if you were playing regular in the first team, you couldn't then really afford to be sitting in the reserves. I mean, I knew they had Kenny, but I think when you get a club like Arsenal coming for you, I mean, to me, it was a case of, you could have sent me the contract in the post, I would have signed it. When you look back now, you think, oh, that's some challenge to try and take over from Kenny Sampson, you know, 80-odd caps for England. But I think when you get the offer to sign for a club like Arsenal, to start with, you don't really worry about that or even think about it. I wouldn't think at that stage that Kenny would have seen me as a threat. And I think for me, it was probably a chance of learning from him, watching him play. So it was to start with, it was a great learning curve for me. Well, I didn't play for a long time. I didn't play for 6 months, and that was a lot harder than whatever I thought it would be, because you miss you know, even I said to you, even at Wimbledon, it was 6,000 supporters, but you get that buzz of coming out, you know, in midweek and at the weekend, and you know, that release of energy to play in a game that means something. But for 6 months I spent at Arsenal, you know, I was in the reserves, and I found it very, very difficult. And I've got to say, I probably was nowhere near the form that I was in at Wimbledon. I was really finding it quite difficult to adjust. But then I got into the team at right back most of the time. I kept sort of swapping. I played like 4 or 5 games after Christmas at right back, and then I might go and switch to left back for a game. And you know, when I got into the team, I mean, George could have played me anywhere, really. It was just that opportunity to play. But I mean, it was pretty uncomfortable playing when I'm so left-footed, playing at right back. But I just really had to you know, use the style of football that I was used to, which was to give 100%, and hope that, you know, I could work my way through and wait for that opportunity to move into that left-back position.
Against Arsenal in the Littlewoods Cup.
Towards the end of the season, I mean, Mickey Thomas was a regular penalty taker. He'd missed a couple of penalties, and I can't remember, I think someone else missed, and then it was just in training, and I just said, you know, who'll take it? I said, well, you know, I'll take the next one. We didn't get one in the league, And then in the cup game, obviously we got the penalty. We're 2-1 up. Well, it's about 17 minutes to go. Not that I remember it too well. And then all of a sudden, you know, the ball's sort of in my hands, and you can now, when I look back, you can imagine people saying, "Why is he taking it? Why is Nigel Winterburn taking the penalty with all the attacking players we got on?" But that's just the way that it had been worked out. And you know, I was pretty confident at the time, because you think, score here, the game's basically dead. It's over.
Winterburn. Saved superbly by Dibble.
I hit it as well as I could, really, but Andy Dibble, he said, made a decent save. But I think then, even when you miss, you're disappointed, but you're thinking, oh, you're still ahead. You know, things should still be all right. But it was just a complete disaster, wasn't it? Last 5 or 6 minutes, and you end up losing the game. And then I think then it really hits home to you that, you know, you're going to be looked upon as probably the player that cost Arsenal the cup on the day.
Good work by Winterburn. Smith, he's got Rocastle with him, he's got Perry Groves there as well. The third goal that surely means 3 points for Arsenal. Hit long by Dixon. And Merson might just have the pace here. Smith's at the near post again. And Wimbledon being pulled apart now.
I mean, when I look back at that team and the players, you know, the whole squad, the one thing I've often said is that I don't think individually, man for man, that we were as good as some of the squads in the league. But what we had was the most desire to win a football game.
Walsh stopped firmly by Adams, who sees possibilities here in going forward himself. And so too does Nigel Winterburn.
We were well organised, we pressed teams, and we did it unbelievably well. And a lot of teams couldn't cope with that. So I don't think, unless you win, you go on to win something, you can never be super confident that you're going to win anything. And we almost blew that title in '89, really, because we should have won that 2 or 3 games before the end of the season. We had ample opportunity, and we almost blew it. And then, see, with Liverpool winning in the week of the final week against West Ham by, I think it was about 5 or 6. We then had to go to Anfield and win 2-0, and I don't think anybody expected us to do that.
Good evening, everybody. So a night of chilling simplicity about it, really. Arsenal must win by 2 goals to take the title. Anything less, and it stays on Merseyside with Liverpool.
Well, it's like climbing a mountain, really, but there's no reason why we can come up here. Nobody really fancies us outside Highbury, so we can relax and enjoy the game and hopefully get the goals that we need.
The game was just amazing, really. I mean, from going out at the start with the flowers and just giving out the flowers before the game. I mean, the first half was pretty tight. I mean, we played quite well, but it was a tussle. We hadn't conceded, which was a bonus to us, but to a lot of people, they were looking at the other way. Well, we hadn't scored either. But I mean, George called it perfectly. He said, look, if we do score, they are going to panic. They're not. What are they going to do? Are they going to come out and attack us? Are they going to sit back? But the one thing that will happen is they'll be nervous, and we've got a free kick.
Castle. Foul that time given against Whelan for his feet too high as he challenged David Rocastle. Arsenal's free kick.
Just hit it in, and I just remember Tony going in for it, and I think he falls over, and then Alan Smith just getting a little glance on it and it going in. But then Liverpool players were quickly around the linesman and referee, and you're just standing there thinking, if he disallows this now, with the pressure he's under, the referee did fantastic, because I'm thinking it would have been easier for him to disallow the goal than to give it. But then once you see him sort of turn away, you knew. I mean, that was only a few seconds as well, but it felt like forever waiting for that decision. And then when we got the goal, obviously the ref gives it, then you know that you've got an unbelievable chance of winning, and you just hope that you can, create a couple more chances and take that second chance.
1 minute to go. McMahon has got the word from the cop, obviously. But nobody knows quite how much time the referee will add on. Just a few seconds away now for Kenny Dalglish. Unless Arsenal can mount something absolutely spectacular in the few seconds that remain. Arsenal come streaming forward now in surely what will be their last attack. A good ball by Dixon, finding Smith. For Thomas, charging through the midfield. Thomas, it's up for grabs now! Thomas! Right at the end!
Mickey had a chance just before that as well that Grobbelaar saved. And then I think I was on his, outside because we were playing with wing backs. And I was on Mickey's outside, and I see when the ball came through to him, and you just really, I'm just holding my breath and thinking, this time, you've got to do it this time. You might not get another chance. And as he flicked it past Grobbelaar, I know it's going in, and I'm already off celebrating. It's just an amazing sort of end to the game, really, because I mean, so many people thought that there's no way we could pull that game out the bag, really. But it was an absolutely amazing end to the season. Two teams going head to head for the title. I don't think it will really happen again. Well, I think when that back four was put together by George, I mean, instantly people will look at you and say the amount of work that we did in training. I mean, George used to take that back four off with John Lukic and Dave Seaman when he came, and we used to spend hours out on that training pitch to start with without any opposition, and then we'd bring opposition in, and that really enabled us to become really the unit that we became. I think people will now look back and say what one fantastic back four it was, but I think when you're playing, you don't realise that. You're just looking to try and achieve something for the football club. Well, I mean, he used to take us out on the pitch, and he used when he talks about tying you up, it's just bits of where you have to say the same distance apart from each other, and he used to use his shoulders and his hands and say my two shoulders are my two centre halves, and my two hands are my fullbacks. And he used to just do it like, he'd put his hands up like this, and so obviously when one hand goes one way, the shoulders move and the other hand comes. So that's how basically the back four worked. It all moved together, it all kept that same distance, and that's what he talked about. And a lot of time, George would have the ball in his hand, and he would move around the pitch where we were defending, defending our goal, then moving out, and we all had to be in certain positions, working together, covering round from one another, and then we built from that where he'd start to bring the ball into play and then bring the opposition into play. We spent hours and hours doing that, and when you look back you think, God, that was boring, but it made us into individually the players that we were, but collectively as that unit as well.
Adams looked for Hayes in space, but Joseph was the player who filled that space, and then it's given away. A great effort from Winterburn. What a goal! Oh, what a goal! One of the goals of the season. Nigel Winterburn against his former team.
What George installed to us was that, even if you're winning by 2 or 3 goals, then, have that pride that you're not going to, and desire to not let a goal in. But I think also in tight games, that's when it became really, really important, because I think when you get on a little run where you don't concede any goals, you know that if you give the forwards, for your team, the chance to score, if they take that one chance, obviously where the 1-0 Arsenal come to, we knew then that we had a good chance of holding on for a victory. So it becomes very, very important.
A couple of minutes to go to half-time. And Empire made a long run to get himself involved, and Keith Hackett has given the goal. Arsenal have stolen a goal here. Look at this. This is disgraceful. It's a free-for-all.
I was involved in the tackle, wasn't I, with Dennis Irwin? But what went on after that, I've got to say, wasn't my fault, because I was lying on the ground. I got a couple of good little kicks in the back from a couple of the Man United players, and fair play to them because it was competitive. But it was just like, well, it's happened, just get on with it. And also, I think you think then when you get deducted points, George sort of said to us, you know, we've got to use this in our favour. You know, it's almost as if everybody hates us, but can we still show them? And yeah, we did show them. So in the end, it didn't really make any difference. 91 was special because only 18 goals against. I think we lost to Chelsea, didn't we, away from home.
Good quick throw there. Dixon.
It's in by Alan Smith. Ferguson's after him. He might find it hard to get rid of Campbell. It's Smith. It's another one for Alan Smith. Alan Smith on a hat-trick on this night of celebration for Arsenal. A hat-trick for Alan Smith. 3-0 for Arsenal. And Arsenal celebrate that championship with a 3-1 victory over Manchester United.
At that time, when we were playing, you know, in that era, I thought it was almost impossible to go through a season unbeaten. But we give it a good shot. But I just suppose we were under George. We were just a clinical team that, you know, had the right formation to win. Yes, it would have been nice to go throughout the whole season unbeaten, but at the end of it, we still would have only ended up with the same thing, and that would have been the league title. So there's no regret. You can't have any regrets when you've won a league title, none whatsoever.
Davis, recognising the need to spread it a little bit, right slipping, but shooting and scoring! He's been out on the pitch in Arsenal colours for some 44 minutes only, and he's doing what comes naturally, and genuine congratulations from his new teammates.
I think when you first come, the one thing that everyone knew about Wright is that, you know, he could score goals, but I think his personality came through pretty quickly as well. He was a very, very bubbly character. You know, was sort of, you know, always larking around, you know, in the dressing room before and after games. But he had a mean streak in him as well, and I think that mean streak was to be successful. And you know, everybody knows. I mean, he went on to break the goal scoring record. But his desire to score goals was the main thing that I will always remember him for. It's very, very difficult if you don't play with a player to see how good they are. And I mean, you know, we knew that if we created chances for Ian Wright, he would take a large percentage of those chances, and did.
And David Lee pressed rather abruptly by Winterburn, but nothing given. And there's no offside. Ian Wright! They have a new hero, the Arsenal fans. Over Maddox, that's Bailey! Oh, what a start from Dennis Bailey! Kerry Dixon, Graham the Soul, a goal for Chelsea! Here, badly needing a result, and it's looking way beyond them at the moment. Gary Charles, Boulders missed out, Sheringham, and here's Scott Gamble. He's lobbed Seaman superbly.
I don't know whether people say we were far ahead as a lot of people thought, because as I said to you, I think when you look, if you're honest and you know, we were a good team, but if you analyse players individually, I think a lot of people would have said, oh, you know, Liverpool have got a better squad, or Man United have got a better squad, but it's not all about individuals. It's about a group of players coming together to play as a team. And I've never ever thought, oh, we should win this. You've got to earn the right to win something. You've got to give it your all. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me that we went a period of time without winning the league. I mean, we were lucky enough along the way to win a lot of cup competitions. So it's not something that you take for granted that you're actually going to go out and win something. You've got to earn the right to do that. And it just took us a few more years to win that title again. We came close on a couple of occasions, but not close enough. Well, I think when you've spent, I don't know, 3 or 4 years at Arsenal, you're getting good reviews, you know, from the papers. You're in the team regular at Arsenal. If you're not getting into the England squad after that period of time, I think you know. I mean, I spent I don't know how much time waiting for those squads to be announced when I first moved to Arsenal. Really, then first got into the team. So, from that '89 team onwards. 91, and I'm thinking I was probably playing some of my best football of my career then, and I'm thinking if I can't get in now, even into a squad, then there's no chance. And I'd listen to the squad, put it on teletext, and you're not in there. And in the end, I've got to say that I didn't even bother turning on the radio or listening for the squad because I knew I wasn't going to be in it. And I suppose that's a sad thing to say, but I think that's just something that happens. I'd love to have been able to got into the England squad. And play and start a game. That's my one regret, just to show what I could have done or couldn't have done. But listen, would I change it for anything for the career I had at Arsenal? Not really, no.
Smith almost won that one for Arsenal. Adams. Oh, Robbins could steal in here. And steals a 4th goal! A quite extraordinary goals. 2 for Robbins now. Really has been an incident-filled game. Here's Fashanu. Earl! Oh, he scored! 4 minutes from time. That'll be the winner.
I've always said that the league is, for me, is the way you're assessed as a team. But if you can't win the league title, for whatever reason, maybe you're not good enough that year, things don't go your way, you're inconsistent, then you've got the cup competitions to fall back on. I mean, at Arsenal, every year that I was here, we set out to win every competition. Now you know that that's not going to happen, but that's what you set out to do, and once one gets chalked off, you try and then win something else.
Merson takes. Adams! Well, he scored in the quarter-final, and maybe now he's settled the semi-final. They're so close now. Arsenal, who were hurt so much by what happened here 2 years ago, Paul Gascoigne and Gary Lineker. And so the revenge is particularly sweet. It's almost the equal of winning the cup itself. Arsenal against Sheffield Wednesday in 2 finals.
We then sort of started to do really well in the cup competitions. That year we got through to the 2 cup finals. I think my one regret is that we played Sheffield Wednesday twice. But stepping out at Wembley is always very, very, very special. And those games were close. It doesn't matter whether you're favourites or not for your League Cup finals or your FA Cup finals. You still got to go out there and win, and they were keenly contested games. Unfortunately for us, that we managed to win them both.
Knocked through the middle now. Parks with the shot, and a goal for Wednesday. Davis chipping that one through. Merson with a shot. It's in. So it's 1-1. It's gone past Anderson. What sort of cross can he put in? There's a goal for Arsenal by Morrow. The final whistle. Arsenal, the winners of the 1993 Coca-Cola Cup, beating Sheffield Wednesday by 2 goals to 1, have assured themselves of a place in Europe next season.
Listen, I can possibly understand the League Cup not having so much significance, but the FA Cup is just so special. I mean, everybody talks about the FA Cup in England and what a magical day it is, but even in the League Cup, walking out at Wembley and to the old Wembley then, from behind that goal, I mean, you do really have to take a sharp intake of breath, because that, you know, that when that noise hits you, it's absolutely amazing. The pitch is lush, you know, and you go and warm up on that pitch before the game as well. It's almost as if it saps your energy away, and really it does take a few minutes to really compose yourself and get ready for the game. And it's definitely an advantage if you've been there before and played before. But what a special place to play! I can't believe that people talking about not wanting to play at Wembley, or it doesn't have a special place in the calendar. For me, it still does.
Linegan's gone up. Davis takes. Linegan's header. And Wright's header! And Arsenal are into the lead. And Ian Wright, whose goals have carried them along the road to Wembley, has scored in the final itself. Sheridan. Bright. And here's Harks. And Hurst is there! It's the final whistle at the end of extra time, and Arsenal and Sheffield Wednesday, who know each other so well, have to come back again on Thursday.
Now, the one good thing about FA Cup finals is they don't go to replays, because the replays are a bit of an anti-climax, and it's hard to say that when you go on to win the trophy, but it's not the same as, you know, on the Saturday when you're preparing for the game and the run up to the game the week before, getting your suits done, staying in the hotel, and the replay was a little bit flat. I mean, the final wasn't even full, and then like you say, we were what, minutes away, weren't we? Probably even less than that, than going to penalties, and Andy Linegan stepped up with that lovely header. That was Chris Woods, wasn't it? Let it slip through his hands. Yeah, it doesn't matter how they go in, not when you start to win trophies.
Here's McGoldrick. Graham Hyde can't get it away. Campbell, right in the middle. Oh, great play by Campbell. A formality for Wright. Arsenal lead.
Ball gets to it, and Ian Wright.
And Campbell is away here. There's no flag. And he's made no mistake. Kelly was exposed, and Campbell cashed in for Arsenal.
I'm used to playing a certain way in England. Certain teams, a lot of people talk now about the passing game and all this, you know. Yeah, you can pass and pass and pass and not go anywhere. There's got to be an end product to all the passing, and that means efforts and goal and crosses. It means activity in the box, because you can pass the ball all day long, but unless you get the ball in the box, you won't score.
Yeah, I think everyone talks about boring Arsenal 1-0, but when you're playing in a system, you get wrapped up in it, and if you're successful at the time, you don't really worry about that. And when people start talking about it and saying, "Oh, it's boring," then you know that you're doing something right, else people wouldn't be talking about you anyway. So 1-0 to the Arsenal never ever worried me, because it meant we were keeping clean sheets, but we were also winning a lot of games as well.
So there are a number of options here, and it's going to be rolled. It will be Winterburn's shot, and Hurd couldn't hold it. Ian Wright equalises. Arsenal level, and it all came right.
Person taking that ball from Selly. Smith on the far side, and exactly what Arsenal required. Their opening goal with a little more than 2 minutes gone. Davis floating it in, Wright with a header, and Arsenal have scored.
I mean, it was a terrific run. I mean, the main thing obviously is the final against Parma. Against that Parma team, nobody expected us to win that game, and we got absolutely battered for 90 minutes. But Alan Smith came up with a goal in the first half, and we just managed to hang on really, and everything went our way. But it was some achievement, because As I said to you, nobody expected us to win that competition, and you know, I mean, it was just a great atmosphere after the game.
Arsenal have won it! A tactical triumph here for George Graham.
Yeah, I'm quite pleased. You know, I mean, it's a great night for everybody concerned with Arsenal.
I just think on that evening, everything fell into place for us, and maybe we were destined to win that trophy because, as I say to you, on paper, there was no way we were going to win it, and even people were talking about we had no chance. But you know, to pull that off, I suppose it was one of the big shocks, you know, of that era. You know, in you know, sort of cup competitions.
Well, we're heading for a penalty shootout. Naeem, or are we? Can you believe what you've seen?
I've seen that goal before. Was it meant? You could debate it. It doesn't matter. I mean, for me, it was so disappointing to come off. I mean, I'd injured my back in a warm-up. I'd had an injection before the game, and it was okay. But at half-time, we decided to inject it again, and it's probably the worst decision I'd made, because the injection must have just gone into the wrong part at half-time. As soon as I had that injection, I knew I wasn't going to be able to carry on, but I gave it a go just after half-time, and I could hardly walk properly, and I knew I had to come off. And I think it's so disappointing, you know, individually, just for that to happen in such a big game. Listen, whenever you lose a final or you come up short in the league after being so close to winning things, it still hurts, because all the players will tell you, particularly the players that played at the top teams for a long time, is they never look back at what they've won. They always look to the next thing. So it's always very disappointing, particularly when you lose in the final of a competition. Very surprised, really. I mean, and for me now, it's still slightly unclear what really did happen. But I just think it was such a sad way for George to sort of leave Arsenal, because for me, obviously, he brought me to the club. And when I talk about the sort of modern day football, the modern era, and I talk about Arsenal, it's from when we started to win things from just before I arrived, and then all through my career. So you know, I'm quite sad that he left in that way. George sort of almost started to recreate the history of Arsenal Football Club again. And I said to it, when you play that particular style, when you're involved in it, it doesn't really matter. And I'm sure for the supporters at that time, it didn't really make any difference, because they started to be successful again and see their team win things. So for me, it was part of my history at Arsenal Football Club. But just disappointing that he left in the way he did. But these things happen, and like everything, people and players and managers move on to other things. Although I played a lot of games under Bruce Rioch, there was a lot of rumours around that he was looking to replace me. And I think there's not a lot you can do. Listen, you can give 100%, and that's all you can do. And if a manager doesn't quite fancy you, thinks you've maybe gone past your best for whatever reason, you know, you just got to, as much as it hurts, you've just got to hope that those rumours are not true, and you can prove him wrong. But I'm pretty confident that if Bruce Rioch would have stayed 2 or 3 seasons, then I probably wouldn't have been at the football club. Luckily for me, if I'm honest, then Bruce Rioch only lasted a season, and I got the chance to work with Arsene Wenger. But I mean, those were only rumours, you know, that Bruce Rioch was looking for another left back. Whether they were true or not, I don't really know, but I had the feeling that they were true, and you know, I was fighting for my career at Highbury, really.
York letting it run for Johnson, cleared by Keogh. And there's no flag. Dennis Bergkamp again.
Well, I think it's sort of signified a slight change. When you talk about Bruce Rioch, the one player that everyone will look at and say is Dennis Bergkamp.
Platt, Bolton looking weary now. Bergkamp!
He's amazing. I picked him as my all-time player, I think, to play with at Arsenal Football Club, and I played with some great players. I mean, Thierry Henry, I think Arsene Wenger talks about as being someone special. But I mean, for me, just because of the amount of time that I played with Dennis, just, you know, the way that he played the game, the way that, you know, the vital goals that he scored, but his appreciation of the players around him was just absolutely amazing. For me, it was like the complete player, you know. He did have a sense of humour, but he was always very, very quiet, Dennis. But you know, he did occasionally lose it on the pitch as well, as we saw in the, I think it was quarter-final, wasn't it, against West Ham. He had that ruthless streak, but just give him the ball and it was like a magician. He was just an absolutely amazing player.
Bergkamp! Well, you start to run out of superlatives.
You know, you're playing with very, very good players, and the chance really to push yourself even further, with a chance to win even more trophies. So the better player you hope that you bring to the football club, then obviously the more chance you have of winning things. And if you're bringing players of the quality of Dennis Bergkamp to the football club, then you know that you're on the right lines. And you know, he was a terrific player for Arsenal. Nobody knew anything about Arsene Wenger, really, but I mean, I know when he came and addressed the players, and he just really, it was just a case of, you know, you've got to try and just adjust and buy into, you know, what I'm trying to achieve. It was a complete difference in the training, sort of the way we lived, what we ate. Very, very scientific. You know, even, you know, training on, you know, with the ball. It was all down to time things, and I think the older players in particular appreciated what he did and what he was trying to achieve. I mean, you have to take it on board and go with it, or else, you know, you're going to be out the football club anyway. So I think for the older players, it was you just go with it and see what happens, and when you're successful anyway, you buy into it as well.
Forward by Winterburn. Williamson, pressed by Vieira, who gets away with the ball. Merson. And Ray Parlour.
I think the one thing I can remember about what Arsene Wenger said was that don't be you know, scared to fail. Go out and express yourself. And obviously, if you're doing lots more training with a ball, you become more comfortable with the ball, and then you start to express yourselves. The type of player that he's bringing to the club, they want the ball to their feet. You know, they're not scared to accept the ball in tight situations. So our style of play started to change, and you know, you could quickly see that you know, it was really enjoyable to be part of, and you know, you just go with it really, and hope that you can prolong your career long enough to win something else with a new manager. Well, I think football was starting to change, you know, and it was still a strong core of English players, but then we started to see, you know, the foreign players coming into the game. But listen, when you're bringing in Bergkamp, and then you look back at Vieira, Petit, Overmars, I mean, you know, you can't be disappointed that you're playing with those players. They're such great players for this football club, that really, you know, it was a pleasure to play with them. All the players that have been at this club, you know, whether they're foreign players or not, I mean, particularly the foreign players, I think they helped, you know, to develop this club into the style of football that they're probably playing now.
On comes Patrick Vieira for his Arsenal debut. Born in Africa, French under-21 international. Bags of promise, signed from the great AC Milan.
When you've got someone 6 foot plus, but is also quick, is strong, defensively was outstanding, but try and knock him off the ball when he was going forward as well. It was almost the complete midfield player of that time. I mean, I think you saw very, very quickly that Patrick Vieira was going to be a massive bonus to the football club, and particularly to that back four that was getting a bit older. He was, if you like, the protection in front of it. I hate comparing different players from different eras because I think it's so hard. And if you haven't played with any of those players, when you only, it's so much more difficult to make an assessment of each one. All I'll say about Patrick Vieira when he was here was, again, he was one of an amazing amount of players that I played with, but he was so strong and powerful that you would back him to win any midfield battle.
Adams trying to get free at the near post. Berg got ahead to it. Vieira. Oh! It flew in! Still life in the game according to the referee, and Bergkamp certainly life in him!
Ability.
Oh, what a goal!
Pace, power.
This is Grimaldi. Oh, the goal! It's his first in English football!
Almost the complete team. Organisation defensively with a strong midfield. Very, very creative as well in midfield. Gave the protection as well to the back four. But when we moved forward attacking wise from midfield to front play, we were so quick and incisive. That was probably, as in terms of style, the best team that I played with at Arsenal, because it absolutely had everything. It could play football, but it could mix it with the roughest teams in the league as well if it wanted to.
It's the game they're calling the crunch over brunch, the collision of the Premier League's top two, Manchester United and Arsenal, kicking off at 11:15 on a Saturday morning here at Old Trafford, where the atmosphere, as you can imagine, is simply fabulous. And Arsenal have the chance here to seriously reopen a championship race, which until recently looked a formality for Manchester United. Arsenal haven't lost a league game since mid-December when they lost at home to Blackburn Rovers, 10 unbeaten, and Manchester United uncharacteristically have lost 4 times in their last 10 league matches.
You've got Manchester United, who are the dominant team, and then you've got Arsenal sort of trying to challenge them. But I think all throughout my
His first Arsenal goal.
I mean, I played all the way up to Christmas, and then Arsene Wenger spoke with me, and he was, quite honest really, and said that it looked like it was coming to the stage where he was going to start to have to change things around. So Savinho was going to play, and I was going to be sort of, if you like, if the reserve, waiting for things, to happen. If Savinho didn't play well or was injured or rested, then I would come in and play. And from Christmas through to the end of the season, I think I played once about every 4 weeks. And the Galatasaray game, I sat on the bench, and I can be quite honest, I can hardly remember anything about that game because I knew then that I'd be leaving. I mean, I loved playing football, but I felt in the league that when I was coming into the team, my performances were so much lower than they'd been when I was playing on a regular basis that I knew I wouldn't be able to live with that. And if I didn't force a move away, then I'd probably be retiring. And for me, it was quite sad having spent so much time here. And also the club wanted me to stay, but I got a massive decision to make. Do I want to try and prolong my career, or do I want to sit on the bench and play every 4 or 5 weeks? And having played all your career, right the way from Wimbledon all the way through for 13 years at Arsenal. So apart from that 6-month period when I first joined Arsenal, so you're looking at 16 years where I played regular. Then someone asking you that, and telling you that you're ever going to play once every maybe 5 weeks, it's very hard to accept. But for me, it was more about how well I could play through that period, and I didn't think I would be able to play well enough, and that's really the only decision I had to make, and why I left the club. I would have loved to have stayed, but if I'd have stayed, I think it would have been the wrong decision to make for myself. I knew that I needed, to play football on a regular basis with the age that I was, to continue in the form that I thought I could produce. And I knew that every one game every 4 or 5 weeks at Arsenal was not going to allow me to do that. Well, I think the first time when I came back, you're always a little bit wary of the reception you're going to get, but fortunately for myself, I mean, I got a fantastic reception. So I got a good reception from the supporters. But it is funny to come back and play against a lot of players that you've been playing with for a long, long time. And I think what you have to try and do is you just almost try and blank out the faces of the players, because at some stage in a game you're going to have to go in for a 50-50 challenge. And I think the one thing that you're hoping for then is when you do that, because there's no way I'm going to pull out, is that you don't actually end up hurting that player, and it is quite strange to play against a team that you've played against for so long. It is difficult. I've always said you play in the era that you're in, you accept what you earn. What a great way to live a life, to play football, to have people coming to watch you each week, and to get paid well for it. I think I'd be saying that I'd be totally greedy if I said, well, I'd give all that back, all those medals back, and I'd take, 150 grand a week? It's tempting, but not tempting enough. For me, it was an honour to be part of, a successful football club at that time. People talk about now you're retired, about the back four, far more than they ever did when you played. Well, that's the way it appears to me. And I was lucky enough to play in several different teams throughout the 13 years that I was here, that was successful, and particularly in the team of 98, where I thought in terms of power and strength and ability, that's the best team that I've played with. But each period was special because I think we managed to produce the maximum amount from each squad that we could. So I haven't really got any regrets. I'm just proud to have been a small part of Arsenal's history. There's one thing I remember when I left the football club, what sort of makes you sort of proud, was that Arsene Wenger said he'd never played or worked with a player that has as much desire to win. So I don't know. I've always said that, you know, I've found it an honour and a privilege to play football, particularly here at Arsenal. And the one thing I've always just set out to do was give 100%, no more, no less. Whether I played well or I played poorly, and I think, or hope, that's what people will remember me for. And I was lucky enough to be part of several teams that won trophies along the way. So I suppose that helps as well.